Hello, folks. It's me again, Amanda Enderman, your trusty tour guide in the wonders of the wonderful city, also known as Rio de Janeiro. And on this video, I'm gonna talk about a haunted castle in Praia do Flamengo that does exist in Rio, my friends. But before I hop right onto the theme of the video, I have to remind you that I'm currently offering walking tours through the city of Rio, and all of them are described on my website, which the link will be in the description box below, as well as in the first fixed comment. And all you have to do is click there, text me on WhatsApp, make your reservations, and let's get to know the city of Rio in person, folks! With me, Amanda Enderman, your trusty tour guide, of course. Now, without further ado, let's go right on to the theme of the video. The story of the castle of Flamengo begins with the renovations done by the mayor Pereira Passo in the early 1900s. And by the way, I have already spoken about such renovations in the video about the mosaic sidewalks of Rio, that I will leave the link up here in the cards for you to see. And I've also spoken about this in the video which I spoke about the Flamengo Park, which I will also leave the link for you up here. But to sum it up real quick, in these renovations, one of his many intentions was to separate people by advertising the South Zone, which is the area, as I mentioned in the video Growing Apart in Rio, which I will also leave for you in the cards up here, between Gloria and Gavia, as being a place for the wealthy to live in. And I'm doing quotations here because fortunately this never caught on. Whereas the North Zone would be the place for the poor to live in. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we'll never know, this part did stick, which was to have the downtown area of Rio be a place of working and decision making, which it is to this day. With this, he decided to build several fancy houses and buildings as well in the South Zone. But he built a lot, of course, in the neighborhood of Copacabana, as I mentioned in the videos that I spoke of as well. However, Copacabana as a fancy neighborhood was an idea that never really caught on until the 1930s, which I will speak about in a future video, so stay tuned. But in the 1900s and up until the 1920s, the fancy neighborhood of Rio was Flamengo, at least the fancy neighborhood to live in. And this was, of course, because Rio, at this point in time, let's not forget, was the capital of Brazil. And the Republican headquarters, the equivalent of the White House in the US, was precisely in the best neighborhood of all, which is the neighborhood of Catete. And I'm not a suspect at all to speak about this. Totally impartial, as in not. So the fancy neighborhood to live in was close to the president's house, which was in Catete. So this is why Flamengo was viewed as a fancy place to live in, especially by the beach. So this street, which is by the beach, which is called Praia do Flamengo. It's kind of confusing, I know. So a lot of fancy houses and buildings started being built in this very street. And one of them was the castle, which I will be talking about in this video. However, before I get right onto specifically that, another one was the Julieta de Serpa house, which is still in the Praia do Flamengo to this day and is the pinnacle of luxury, beauty, and all of that. It's out of this world in there. You'll go crazy with pictures, and I highly recommend that you go there for the afternoon tea, save a little money because it is a bit expensive, but not astronomically expensive. You won't regret it. It will be money very well spent. So here, our slide presentation today, I've just left it automatically shifting through the pictures, both inside and outside the the castle of Flamengo. However, there will be a picture of it in the thumbnail. You can see it there if you like. So this castle was built by the Italian architect Gino Coppedi in 1916, and the building of it was finished 2 years later. And the very first owners of this castle were the Comendador. I forgot the name for that in English. I'll leave it written down here for you guys. Joaquim da Silva Cardoso and his wife Carolina. Soon after them, a couple and their young daughter bought the castle and became the new owners, and they were called Avelino Fernandes. The wife was called Rosalina Feu Fernandes, and their daughter was called Maria de Lourdes Feu Fernandes. However, folks, sadly, there are accounts that the couple both died in a car accident. They were run over in front of the castle in 1932. And so poor Maria de Lourdes was left an orphan and was put into the care of a tutor. And folks, this tutor was beyond evil. He mistreated her, beat her, and was aggressive with her, and he even locked her in the tower of the castle. Mind you, there was even that. She died very young because of all of this mistreating on the part of her tutor, and legend has it that she came back after she died, meaning her spirit, and she started haunting the castle in search of vengeance.
This is legend. This isn't real.
This story, except for the hauntings, of course, is all documented in the court here in Rio. There are legal documents that prove that all of this was real. The couple was real, the little girl was real, the tutor was real. It's all documented in the court here in Rio, in legal documents. So much so that the legal documents prove that after the couple died, the ownership of the castle was tied to a legal procedure for decades, and so it couldn't be bought by anyone. And unfortunately, the street population in Rio was already quite significant at this time. And, well, put yourself in the shoes of a person who is homeless, who is living in the streets. Of course, the thing that you'll most want is shelter to protect yourself from the rain, sometimes from the cold. And I can't stress this enough. It gets cold here in Rio certain times of year, especially at night. So you're gonna want shelter. But, my friends, in all of these decades, until the late 1980s, so 50 plus years, there was never a case of street people occupying and settling inside castle and the police having to throw them out. None of that. And this is because they could manage to stay in the castle during the day, but none of them could sleep in the castle, because they all said that they heard strange noises inside the castle, and some even felt like someone was touching them. And then they looked and it was nobody. Finally, after decades of it being abandoned, in 1983, the writer Pedro Nava, along with ex-mayor of Rio, Júlio Coutinho, started a legal procedure that is necessary for any house to be protected for its historical significance. So when a house is declared as being of historic value here in Brazil, you can't change the outside of it, and there's a whole other set of rules for inhabiting it or even using it because it's historically protected. And they managed to put this castle on the list of historically protected properties. However, the irregular occupations of the castle remained until the end of the 1980s. And finally, in 1992, the Oduvaldo Viana Filho Cultural Center was opened in this very castle, and it is functioning to this day. So the castle nowadays is a museum, which means that for those of you who want to, of course, you can also visit this museum and take pictures there and post them on social media and say,
Hey, I was in the haunted castle of Flamengo.
and also, there are, in fact, theatrical performances and artistic performances in this castle as well nowadays. And on the outside of the castle, you'll see a sign which has written when there will be theatrical or artistic presentations. So, folks, this concludes this video about the haunted castle of Aterro do Flamengo. And I hope you liked the video. And if you liked the video, hit that like button, then right after that, hit that subscribe button, but most importantly, share this video with as many people as you possibly can so that each time more people may know of the wonders of the wonderful city. And as usual in this channel, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!